And now let's do a tour de table like we did before to hear other views from other types of, in this case, hotel chains, right? Because we've heard from Iberostar and Radisson Group is, we could say, quite different in the business model, right? Sven Wilting, he's Global Senior Director of Sustainability at the Radisson Hotel Group. So just to understand maybe how you approach things as Radisson is, let's say, larger entity or more, how would you describe it, than Iberostar, that is a family business, where Megan was presenting, you know, the centralized vision. How do you deal, for example, with franchised hotels and sustainability? How do you engage with so many teams? Could you give us a few insights on how that's working for you in Radisson?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation as well. I think we need to realize that we don't want to reinvent the wheel, that we're all on the same pathway, and the more we can align, regardless if you're Iberostar, Radisson Hotel Group, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, name them all, we're all on the same pathway, and it's not that an hotel will look for different solutions in different destinations. So I strongly believe that the pathway we set as a member of the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance towards net positive is actually a structured approach, which starts with a starting step, hotel sustainability basics. From there, moving on to, and we call it our responsible business program, but basically advancing in the journey. Acceleration, and everyone is talking about net zero, that's the acceleration. We're very happy that we're on that pathway as well, with approved targets on near-term targets as well as net zero targets by 2050. But really beyond that, being a leader in the industry, and not just to drive the needle for ourselves as a group, but really to be an ambassador for the hospitality industry as general. And that's something which has started for us with Hotel Sustainability Basics, but I think there is more and more alignment to come. We're all sitting in the same room, we're talking the similar language, so it's just a matter of time that we set that standard. Engagement with teams is key, because I always say sustainability team for Radisson Hotel Group, we have 1,200 hotels in our portfolio, but we have a team of 4 people within sustainability. We're not driving sustainability, we're setting standards, we're driving strategy, but it really happens at hotel level, right? And that's where owners need to invest in the property, that's where the guests will see what is actually done, and sometimes you don't see it as a guest, it needs to be done back of house. So it's really important that team member involvement is there, that you provide decent communication on a frequent basis. We're focusing on a structured approach in this, so that whatever under the scope of people, community and planet data is available, that ideas are available, best practices can be shared, but also really further focusing on campaigns. Operational teams, they love sustainability. You can bring it to life with active campaigns, and the last 2 campaigns, I just want to mention those. One is called Move to Zero, where we're focusing on 6 key elements on the carbon, the net zero approach, and really giving tangible examples how each department can actually drive their net zero focus. So it's no longer a science-based target, which is somewhere there and it's not understood by the majority of the group, but you actually break it down and you can explain it in a grandma language to anyone within the family, what you're actually supporting as a team member. You were asking about franchised hotels. From our group, about 50% of the portfolio is franchised. So it's really important to engage with any hotel, and if you stay in a Radisson hotel, you don't know if it's a franchised or a managed or a leased property, and as a guest, you frankly don't care. So we're obviously very strong focusing on our brand standards. That's the first stepping stone to actually engage with hotels and make sure that they follow sustainability requirements. The hotel sustainability basics are part of the brand standards as well, and are audited beyond that as well. But of course it goes further, and the coming years we'll see more and more certification playing in a bigger role, and that's also something which we see happening within the industry and not just for us. What I also think is really important is the alignment back of house, so all the different departments at our corporate level, our central level, who are supporting the hotels, that there is no siloing, but that we're all talking the same language, that we're all talking the same direction, and that we're very much focusing on not so much only giving direction and setting strategy, but guiding the hotels, and so regardless of contract type, but also incentivizing them. So what if you are already completely electrified? How can we make that more visible to in the booking funnel towards clients and guests, to actually increase that level of visibility and therefore increase the level of occupancy within the hotels as well. So there's a direct link there. And that is something which can help as well financing, because it is important that we are financing our business and that we're financing that transition. And that can also stimulate owners to actually further invest.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sven. Quite a task, but very, very interesting how you're approaching it, and I completely agree. We definitely need more awareness. We need to have our staff on board, and we need to have the tourists on board, and probably also everyone in the supply chain if we can, right? So this leads me to the next speaker. She's Dr. Andrea Fuentes, contracting manager in Intrepid West Europe, a tour operator. You're doing great work with your supply chain, aren't you, Andrea? Can you tell us a little bit how you're engaging with them?
Well, this is a very hot topic, and I hope to be fair with the answer, because we, as Susanetti, our global environmental manager, says, we are in day one, and we have a lot of ambitions. But to reply the answer, I need to tell you just a short story. Talk about a bit of Intrepid. So Intrepid is an Australian company that was born 33 years ago in Melbourne, where we have our headquarters. But then, since then, we have been growing and growing, and nowadays we are a great network of 27 TMCs, plus our urban adventure excursion day company and the Intrepid Foundation. That means that we are now an Intrepid group, and proudly I can say we are the world's largest travel big corporation. And that means that we bring a lot of joy of our customers, creating very, very local experiences. We create also positive change in our communities, but also means that our carbon footprint is also important. So we started our sustainable journey in 2005, and we have been progressively working. But of course, we signed up this, and we became a signatory in the Glasgow Declaration. And 1 year before, we started our also 7-step commitment plan in terms of climate action. So through all this time, we have been analyzing how is our role in terms of the travel business, and how can we improve our footprint. So as all of us, we are starting with the measuring plan. So we measure in 2022, yes, 2022 more or less, we're finishing, because believe it or not, we're present in 7 continents. We run more than 1,000 itineraries, and we work with thousands and thousands of suppliers. So we needed to know where we were at. We were standing up. And the first information, the first data dropped that 98% of our carbon footprint comes from our supply chain, and just 2% from Intrepid Group. So that's a very, very strong information. Of course, we have been working a lot in decarbonizing our itineraries and decarbonizing strategies for our offices. But what about the other 98%? So seriously and very, very responsibly, last year we started our journey to work with this very wide range of suppliers, because if we are in 7 continents, and you are travelers, I'm sure, and you know this business, so we have a rural home, a rural guest house in Vietnam, and we have an hotel chain like Iberostar. We have a transport company in Costa Rica that have electrical chains, electrical cabs. And so it's a wide range of suppliers. So also we needed to know where they're standing at. So last year we finished the data collection. We're now analyzing that data to, of course, have a roadmap and create also customized initiatives with them. But in parallel, we also have been doing our engagement, I mean, for many years. This is, of course, to have a clear picture to what we will do in the future. But we have been working with them, and I think as a big company and responsible big corp, one of the great initiatives is to mentoring businesses. We have been in First Nations, Australia. We have been working in a mentoring program with Aboriginal companies, and proudly say we have been having great success with them. It's something that we really want to copy in the rest of the DMCs, because I work here in Spain, and we have the most visited countries in the world: Italy, Mediterranean, France, Spain, Portugal. So it's a totally different reality that the mentoring there, but it means that we, of course, need to take more action, to not just to measure, I mean, to go to action and mentoring. Advocacy, something, and contracting we are doing with our suppliers too. We are, in our contracts and in our meetings, we are encouraging and implementing small pilots of training, depending on the needs and also of the realities of the businesses. Public and private partnerships, we cannot do it alone. We're big, but this is something that is bigger than us. So, of course, we are created in every DMC and with the different countries and the boards, tourism boards and destinations, partnerships. And I think the component of continuity is also something that I want to bring up with the conversation, because launching an initiative is great, mentoring is great, but we need to go with them, you know, through time. And resources, finance, of course. This means that we are, as a big corporation, investing an important part of our profits in these projects of mentoring, and also training our own teams to become experts too, and accompany our suppliers. So yes, we are engaging partners, but we are in day one, and we hope, we know with the results of this year's analysis, the data collection and data analysis we're doing, to just have, you know, a big project, you know, for the upcoming years.
Thank you so much, Andrea. What I really like is that most of your suppliers are SMEs, right? Because of the products that you offer. So with this approach, you can really support smaller companies that were probably not even thinking about climate action, because it completely escapes their capacity. You're you know, supporting their transformation without them having to study, you know, the topic in complexity. So it's in practical terms. So it's really a catalytic approach. You mentioned your scope 3 is really large. Also for the colleagues in the room, so Intrepid is an asset-light tour operator as opposed to the travel corporation. That means that Intrepid does not own the hotels and the vehicles, etc. Right? You correct me if I'm wrong. So it's all supply chain. Yeah, and for the travel corporation, it's a different picture. Nadine was telling us about the 41 brands, etc. So they do have properties and transport. So you can imagine the different complexities of different types of tour operators. Another tour operator we have with us today is Europa Mundo Vacaciones. Next speaker is Luz Tribaldos. She's a sustainability and social responsibility expert. Thank you, Luz, for being with us. Would you like to also comment on perhaps the way that you also select suppliers in Europa Mundo?
Thank you for Thank you for inviting us today to speak here. And also I want to say that it's an honor to me to be representing Europa Mundo Vacaciones. As for those who don't know anything about us, we are a tour operator organizing cultural tours around the world, and we are very committed to the values of social responsibility and sustainability. And going to your question, answering to your question, just to say that it is a challenge every year for us to look for and to work for with more than 2,000 suppliers. So we have to constantly check the way we work with them related to sustainability and also climate action. As I said, we are committed to sustainability and committed to work with small and medium-sized local companies. And the selection of suppliers, it is based on adaptability, price, innovation, and quality. So we want to engage our suppliers through our code of conduct for suppliers and our code of ethics. And we want to promote our values of sustainability and corporate social responsibility, and also promote human rights and the SDG among our suppliers and also among other of our stakeholders. We carry out every year a certification on quality. It is called the Q for Tourism Quality. And with this certification, we evaluate every year the way of that our suppliers, the quality of our suppliers' services, and also of our supply chain. Right now, we are awaiting authorization to introduce clauses on the contract of our suppliers, and for them to be governed by the ESG criteria, and to follow our code of ethics within the Europa Mundo, JTB group, which we belong to, and also the World Tourism Organization principles. I want to link in this part with the scope 3 of the carbon footprint, as I don't know if you have if you have any knowledge that the scope 3 in general represents between 60% and 95% of the emissions of the companies. In our case, Europa Mundo, scope 3 represents 99% of our emissions, which is a big aspect. And also it is by far the most difficult scope to calculate and to report. We have been neutral CO2 since 2014, and in 2022 we had in total 2,700 emissions. And as I said, 99% of these belong to scope 3. And they can be summarized by 3 headings. The emission generated by our charter buses represents 77% of our emissions. The emissions generated by our employees' business travel represent 12% of our carbon footprints. And then the emissions coming from the use of and disposal of the paper represents 8%, and is basically due to the printing of our brochure. And we also include other aspects, or such as the digital use, for example, the use of emails or the online meetings. So our emissions targets include, in order to engage suppliers, we would like to we prioritize the use of in our charter buses the use of those who use more efficient engines, following the regulations of the European Union. We promote the reduction of our employees' travel, and also we promote the digital marketing, so we can reduce the use of the paper, and to involve suppliers in reducing and offsetting emissions and developing clean technologies. Every year, when we offset, we ask our buses companies to participate in the offsetting with us, and also we are working on launching an initiative for our transfer companies to change the model of their fleet to towards hybrid or electric vehicles. So that is what we do. That is our work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. I don't know. I no longer hear myself, so yeah, now it works. Thank you, Luz, really for sharing all that range of actions that you're putting in place. I'm moving on to Tim. Tim Verhast, he is Director General at the European Tourism Association, so another type of stakeholder with us today, trade association, right? So how do you see things? How are you connecting the dots? Because you are somehow at the crossroads of the businesses and the destinations, and yeah.
Okay. Right, I'll keep it quick because it's nearly wine o'clock. Those of you who don't know who we are, we're a big dating agency for the tourism industry. So very pleased to be joined by 4 of our members on the panel today. So if you're looking for product in Europe, they might be in our network. If you've got product and you're looking for buyers, we might be a useful place to see. And 10% of our global team is in this room. Jorge is at the back. He'll be around for a drink as well. So if you want to know what we do, grab him. So I'm going to talk very quickly about 2 aspects of our work in this area. The in-house work, and then the external multiplier, which is really where we're going to be most influential because, as you said, we're a hub. We're not a big business ourselves. We're definitely small. So we're doing measurement. We have a climate action partner that helps us with the calculations. Our big scope 3 are in-person events that people come to. So we measure those. Our hotel partners are very helpful for that. But the big element of the footprint is delegate travel. So we catch that and we roll that up into a number, and we have money for a carbon fund from the fee that people pay to attend our event. So that's our sort of in-house work. We declared a climate emergency in 2020. We have a climate action plan. It's small, it's simple, because we're quite small and simple. And our members generally do more and know more than us. So part of our job is to aggregate the information that they have and help share it in a way that's useful. And I think moving to the external piece, is that me crackling or is that some other source of crackle? I won't move. It could be my beard. I shall freeze. So thinking about the external bit, I can hit myself. Did the microphone go? I will project a little more. I'm going to keep talking, otherwise this might get agonizing generally. So thinking about the external piece, and I think there's a big... Oh dear, I might start singing with this. Thinking about the external piece, big irony, I thought, particularly listening to what was said in the earlier panel and also what Christina was saying. And I'm co-chair of something called the European Tourism Manifesto as well, which brings together 70 organizations who are active across the sector in all aspects of travel and tourism in Europe. And we heard about the value of working collectively. We heard about, let's find a consensus on measurement. At the same time, in very well-intentioned ways, the European Commission is funding lots of projects, all of which are invited to come up with new ways of measuring sustainability. So we've got a sort of public sector funded fragmentation of measurement in progress. And we're part of the problem because your choice is participate or sulk. So we get involved, but I think there is a structural problem there if what we want is consensus and clarity and comparability of metrics. So that's my provocative, unhelpful statement out of the way. But I think really what we've heard so far is the most salient. This is an area where competition needs to be parked and collaboration needs to be promoted. And I think the companies that are taking the lead in this sphere are the ones who share what they're doing. This is an area where, and this is what a trade association does. It offers commercial opportunity, but it's there to promote collaboration. So I think, in essence, Virginia, that's what we do. We will express a view if we think in the public policy sphere things are not working. It's the only area I can think of where the private sector wants the regulator to move faster, because we need to de-risk the commercial risk of better practice. Because right now you can vacate a whole area of commercial activity and leave it to someone else to make lots of money, because you still can. So that's a problem. And it's also an area where you cannot follow demand, because demand won't develop fast enough to drive change. So we know that industry needs to move ahead of the consumer, and as a trade association, we need to move ahead of the industry. So I hope that doesn't sound too preachy, but it's collaboration and keeping an eye on what the ecosystem is doing and trying to aggregate the common interest to advance that collective action. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, so much, and sorry for the mic issue. Absolutely, actually in the report, the Glasgow Declaration implementation report, you see already referenced many of those initiatives on measurement that are popping up from stakeholders, and well, hopefully from our sphere of action in Glasgow, we can, let's say, make sense and try to coordinate on those, but there are going to be plenty more, so let's hope we can be constructively dealing with what's coming on that front. Let's move on to our next speaker. She's going to discuss about pathway, which is very important, and as we saw in the beginning, is under-addressed. It's Amanda Ho. She's the co-founder and CEO of Regenerative Travel. So we saw that our stakeholders not yet understand what we mean by regenerate. You work on regenerative tourism. So how are, for example, the hotels that you work with interpreting regenerative tourism? What type of regenerative activities are they putting forward?
Thank you so much, Virginia, and you and WTO for having me. For those of you who don't know who Regenerative Travel is, we represent an association of hotels, tour operators, DMCs, and also other travel businesses. They're all dedicated to regeneration. I'm also very encouraged by everyone in this room today that has also expressed how regeneration is part of their climate action plans. Regeneration means to address all aspects of nature, that everything is interconnected. The land, people, wildlife, and everything in all these systems works together in whole systems thinking. So really I'm excited to hear that everyone is really taking on this concept of regeneration. When we started 5 years ago, it really wasn't in the language yet, so it's definitely exciting to see that this is part of the UNWTO's pathways and framework. Also, we believe that regeneration cannot happen in silos. A key aspect of regeneration is community and partnership, so I'm excited to share a little bit more about 2 examples of how private and public sector are working together. One of our hotels in Tanzania, in Zanzibar Manta Resort, has now collaborated to form the Blue Economy Corridor as of August 2023 in Zanzibar. It has collaborated between the Blue Alliance and the Ministry of the Blue Economy to form a 5-year commitment that focuses on local community interests and preservation of 8,000 hectares and 8,000 households. This co-management agreement focuses on improving the area's financial sustainability, boosts the local economy, empowers fishermen and creates jobs, and ensures the lasting protection of the conservation area. I also have a really incredible example of Embu Camp in Kenya. It's the first carbon neutral camp in the Masai Mara, and they're now working with the government to ensure that the Masai Mara will be carbon neutral by 2030. They helped create a climate action plan that was announced during COP26 with the Kenyan government. Shortly after, the Kenyan government shifted power, so they're now working on alternating the climate action plan. However, there's still a big focus on 100% renewable energy through its vehicles and operations. So we're really seeing that this is a huge focus for the new government in Kenya by really focusing on promoting fully renewable electric vehicles in the Masai Mara. And currently the country is now representing about 90% of renewable energy. So the Embu River Camp is now working with the Secretary of Climate Change in Kenya to support the climate action plan with the focus on electric mobility. And our last example is Basada Eco Lodge in Egypt. It's Egypt's first eco lodge in Egypt that's now working with the government to set guidelines and baselines for sustainable tourism in the country. There's been some issues with licensing, particularly around sustainable and eco-tourism. So now the new Sustainable Tourism Organization will now create the new standards that is focused on evaluating hotels. I also want to comment on, Tim, your point on the creating more of a consistency in really measuring, and because we really believe that our focus now as an organization is also to support hotels and the standard measurement. So I'm really excited to hear that's also part of your focus. But thank you, Virginia.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. I mean, from our end in UNWTO, the measurement sustainability of tourism standard will be colleagues correct me if I don't use the right terminology, approved, endorsed, adopted by the United Nations as a global statistical framework. Now, the challenge we have ahead of us is how to connect the practitioner measurement with the statistical framework that's giving us the north, right? But it's great to have a north so that we can at least, we know where we're headed. Next speaker is Glenn, also on, we could say regenerate. Maybe you make the link for us, because net positive, Sven mentioned how you're driving action, from the industry since you launched the pathway. I wonder, do you see a connection with the regenerative pathway of Glasgow? Or if you do, how we should connect them further?
Absolutely, and I think I'm last speaker on this list here. It might not.
Well,
Kirsten?
maybe I'll go crazy
Maybe
and I'll start
you're-
asking you
maybe
more
you're- I'm
questions. I
thinking,
don't
oh my
know.
God. I think it's all been said now. I don't know what more to say, really. It's interesting, when I started this job, I go up to people and they pat me on the head and they say, Glenn, you got a lot of work to do, because we actually don't believe you're taking this seriously as an industry. And then we've just listened to everything that's gone on here, and obviously we are. We're just not getting our story clear, and I think the Glasgow Declaration certainly plays a big role in collecting these key messages to really make sure we have some galvanizing messages that actually cut through the noise, because the industry is making progress. Yes, I represent an organization with a portfolio of members who have 7 million rooms, 50,000 hotels, and a series of members from the supply chain. I'm very proud to say, since signing the Glasgow Declaration, our membership has grown by over 260%, and which shows a tremendous commitment. We were one of the founding signatories of the declaration, and the commitment the industry was making towards this. So I represent Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. Very proud to have 2 members standing on this stage who are very engaged and active in driving change. Yes, net positive hospitality is the foundation philosophy of this. It's beyond net zero and beyond this conversation of simply sustainability, but thinking about regeneration. And we want to be a contributor to the destination for which we have the privilege to operate within. And we want to be seen as a contributor to society. And we want to send a strong market signal as a sector that, again, we're taking it seriously and that we're respectful of the community. The regulator is clearly demanding it, and the stick is coming. The Green Directive and the stagnant asset issues that are going to be presented to this sector is significant. The communities are demanding it. The shareholders are expecting it, and in fact, many of the people that said to me, what are we doing as an industry, it was the financial community that said they don't believe we're taking it seriously, and as a result, they're parking their money elsewhere. So we need to really address that issue and be able to communicate to the financial community in a consistent, clear way that we're clearly not doing at the moment. The consumer certainly has caught up to the question. I think but we want to be ahead of the consumer. I think they've actually caught up to us now, particularly the luxury traveler, the business traveler. There's absolutely a willingness to pay beyond, there's an expectation that we are delivering a sustainable product, and there's a willingness to pay for that. And then finally, it's the employee of the future. The employee is expecting a company and an organization with purpose. And if it doesn't have purpose, they go elsewhere. So making that bed not just serves the customer, but actually could save the planet. And that's when we transcend to a bigger role. So we've adopted a comprehensive pathway to net positive hospitality that Sven referenced, that showcases a set of guidance materials and tools to support that effort. We have a carbon measurement tool that is the most used in the sector, and we're right now embarking on really making significant change to really start to really address the Scope 3 issue within that carbon measurement effort within the hospitality sector. Training obviously is a big part of that, and we've heard some training elements here, and that is certainly for front of house, back of house. General manager training is really important, and that's well underway. And one of the things of the power of getting multiple businesses to come together is that collective effort to make even group purchase, but also to drive sustainability price down on certain products and services, but also, and Sven and Baristar are very much engaged in establishing a common PPA for the industry to buy green energy off the grid. Individually, it's a very difficult task, but as a collective, you can actually get more impact, and we're just working through a process which would actually show innovation within the sector. A sector, quite frankly, that's not always seen as very innovative. And this would actually be shown in a significant way. So that's the power of the collective, and I'm very, very proud of the members who are there because they're doing it in a very pre-competitive way, openly sharing their IP between each other, and you don't see that in other elements within hospitality, tourism in general, that openness of sharing, because we are obviously all committed to achieving the objectives of the Glasgow Declaration and ultimately saving the planet.